Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I recently celebrated my 25th birthday back in mid-April, and with birthdays you get gift cards. And what does any good booktuber do with gift cards? They spend it on books. Usually. That's what I did. I have a nice pile of books here, a nice variety of genres too, and I want to share them with you. So the first two that I'm going to talk about are YA, the two young adult books that I bought. The first one is one that is a quintessential young adult book. It still makes its round on BookTube even though it came out a long time ago, and that is Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. I have heard a ton about this book, and it's all been positive to the point where I thought it was worth it for me to pick up a contemporary young adult novel, which is not a genre that I usually gravitate towards. This one follows a girl named Amy who has to make a cross-country trip from California to Connecticut, and Roger, who's an old family friend, ends up making that journey with her. And as they're driving from one side of the country to the other, they obviously get to really know each other, and I think there's some emotional healing that takes place along with a lot of fun. And just flipping through the book, they have like fun playlists and little pictures and stuff like this, which I love books that do that. I don't know if you guys do too, but I absolutely love books that have little things and lists, and when it looks like people are sending emails, you know, stuff like that. I dig that. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I'm also looking forward to checking out the songs that are on the playlists that I know are in here. So that'll be cool too. The second book I picked up is one that just came out, and it's been getting a ton of buzz for very good reason, and that is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. The book follows 16-year-old Star who lives between two different worlds. She is from a poor black neighborhood, but she goes to a fancy prep school, and so her life is kind of split down the middle. And when her best friend from her neighborhood is killed by a police officer, this completely shatters her life. She is the only one that knows what really happened. I must admit, I do have really high expectations for this book, and I do hope that it meets them. Everything that I've heard so far has been very positive. This book is particularly relevant to events that have been happening in the US with the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality, so I'm very interested to see where this book takes it. The next three books I have are all adult fiction or some variation on that. The first one is Byrd Box by Josh Malerman. This is a suspense thriller book that follows Mallory, who has been living in fear for the last number of years. There's some sort of thing. They don't know what it is, but it's been killing off everyone, and she is part of a small group of people that is left, and she has two young children, and all she dreams about now is finding a safe place. As far as she knows, there's a safe place to go not too far from where she's been hunkered down, but leaving this little place that they've been living in is extremely dangerous. I've heard a couple different booktubers talk about this book, and they loved it, thought it was a fantastic thriller suspense novel, so I'm really interested to check it out for myself. It's also really short, so I feel like this is the kind of book that you could read in one sitting if you have a lot of free time, or if you're flying on an airplane, something like that. There's something that will really suck you in. The second book in this group is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. I read Room semi-recently after years of putting it off because I wasn't loving the writing style, but once I actually sat down and read the book, I absolutely loved it. So when I heard that Emma Donoghue had a new book coming out and the premise actually sounded like something I was interested in, I wanted to pick it up. This one takes place in 1850s Ireland, and there's a young girl who they are referring to as the Wonder because she has apparently been fasting for weeks and is still continuing to live. And then we have our nurse who comes in to monitor the girl for a span of time to find out what's really going on. And then the nurse, as she's sort of figuring things out, begins to wonder if somebody is trying to slowly murder this girl. I have heard that it is a bit slower than some people were hoping, so I'm going into the book with that in the back of my mind, but otherwise I really like the idea of the setting, and hopefully it plays out well. This last one is one I actually just got given to me. My boyfriend's mom is a librarian, and she gets sent advanced readers copies of random books, and she gave me a couple semi-recently and said, if you want any of them, take them. And this one stuck out to me. It's Woman Number 17 by Eden Lepecki. I know this name because the same author wrote California, which is sitting right here. I haven't read it yet, but because I'd heard good things about this, I decided that I might want to grab this as well. This is very different from California. It seems more a suspense thriller, not post-apocalyptic. It's about a woman who's living in the Hollywood Hills, and she hires this young girl to watch her toddler son and then also just keep an eye on her older son. The mom and the girl that she hires end up getting really close, and then something starts happening between the girl that she hired and her older son, and it sounds like it's probably not going to go very well. So yeah, I'll read it and find out what happens. My last pile is 4 books, and they're all nonfiction, because what kind of book haul would it be for me if I didn't have at least 1, if not 4, nonfiction books to talk about. The first one is Welcome to the Goddamn Ice Cube, Chasing Fear and Finding Home in the Great White North by Blair Braverman. Blair grew up in California, and at the age of 18, she moved to Arctic Norway and was racing sled dogs, and then she was also working in Alaska. So these extreme environments, basically because she kind of wanted to push herself to be a tough girl, as it says on the back of the book here. It seems like it's going to be a fantastic combination of adventure writing and finding oneself and experiencing cultures that were obviously probably pretty different from what she'd grown up with. This sounds like another book where I could just sit down and probably read the whole thing in one day. My next nonfiction book is Evicted by Matthew Desmond, Poverty and Profit in the American City. This one I actually read an article or an excerpt from the book online. I can't remember where it was, but it was after the book had recently come out, and the excerpt was so good, so interesting and gripping that I knew I wanted to get this book, and it finally came out in paperback, so hey. The author, Matthew Desmond, is a Harvard sociologist, and he followed a number of families living in Milwaukee who were just trying to keep a roof over their heads, and all of the difficulties they went through, and just how their day-to-day lives are so hard. And something like keeping a roof over their heads, which might seem easy to many, is not easy for them. The second to last book I have is a big anthology. It's called The 40s, A Story of a Decade, and it's put together by The New Yorker. This was actually one I borrowed from the library late last year, just because I wanted to sort of flip through it and get an idea before I went out and picked it all up, because I knew there was no way I was going to be able to read the whole thing after I got it from the library. I mean, it doesn't look it, but it is gigantic. It's got over almost 700 pages in it, so I knew it wasn't something I was just going to do for light reading. It's something that I'm going to read section by section. Unfortunately, the copy that I picked up from the library smelled horribly of smoke. So someone who was a smoker had obviously had it in their home for a bit, returned it to the library, and then when I was reading the pages I could smell the stale smell. So that was kind of weird, but it made it so I couldn't really go through the book, but what I did get to look through I really liked. So what they mean by the story of a decade is that they have articles and book reviews and poems and movie reviews and all these things that would have appeared in a 1940s copy of The New Yorker, and they also have more modern authors reflecting on the 1940s in here. So there are articles by people like Zadie Smith in here, who obviously wouldn't have been writing for The New Yorker in the 1940s, but it's got some brilliant stuff in it. And one thing I'm particularly interested in reading, they have a whole section about the war, so World War II, and the really famous article Hiroshima is in here, and it's a really big article. I know you can find it online, but it's so long I would much rather read it in the print copy. So that's just one thing that I'm looking forward to in this, but I have a feeling it's going to be one of those books that's going to sit on my bedside table, and then every so often I will, spend some time reading the next couple stories or the next couple poems or whatever, and just become a more cultured individual about the 1940s. And last but not least, we have We Are as Gods, Back to the Land in the 1970s on the Quest for a New America by Kate DeLawes. This one is following a group of individuals who buy 116 acres in Vermont in order to go back to the land. They want to grow their own vegetables and build their own houses and be self-sustaining and get away from society. The description on the inside flap almost reads like it would be a fiction story, but it is nonfiction. The author's parents were actually part of the Back to the Land movement, so she does have some personal connections to the people that she's writing about. Of course, I have personal connection with it taking place in Vermont, so I think it'll be really interesting to read about a little snippet of my state's history that I'm sure many other places also had, but to get the story from people living in Vermont will be nice as well. And that's all the books that I recently acquired thanks to birthday gifts. Yes! If you guys have read any of these books, I'm sure you've read a few of them because some of them are pretty popular. Let me know what you thought of them down below. Also, if there's one of these books that you want me to read first, I'm really excited to read a lot of them, so if you have one that you really want me to read and review ASAP, let me know in the comments below. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo. Check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.